Today we are going to complete the rectangle portion of your modeling area lab. So that is the yellow packet that I gave you with your Chapter 4 notes. If you please take that out. You're also going to need this graph paper that I gave you with your Chapter 4 notes as well. And in that graph paper, if you would cut out a rectangle, and if you would cut that rectangle out so that it is 8 by 6. So 8 by 6. Go ahead and cut out a rectangle that is 8 by 6. So here's my rectangle, and then I just put a little bit of glue on it. I'm going to have you go ahead and just glue that down on the first page where it says rectangle. If you're at home and you don't have glue, tape is fine too if you have tape. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to have you do, if you go down here to where number 1, it asks how many squares are on the note card. So if you'd go ahead and answer that for me, how many squares you see there. And when I count all of these squares, I came up with 48 squares. But we already know how to find the area of a rectangle, so you could have taken a shortcut because we know that this is 8 units down here, and this is 6 units here. So we could have said, well, we know 8 times 6 is 48, so we know that there's 48 squares in there. So the length of the rectangle, that's here, that's my 8 units, and then the width is 6 units. Sometimes we refer to that as the base and the height as well. This being the base and this one being the height. So if we look at the length and width related to the total number of squares, we already know that the formula for area of a rectangle is length times width, but we can see why that works. Because 8 times 6 is 48, and there are 48 squares inside of this rectangle. So what we could say, how we could put that into words, is that if we multiply the length and width together, that's 6 times 8, we get the total number of squares, which is the area. And that's why we refer to area as square units, because we're referring to the number of squares inside that shape. So in a mathematical equation, we would say that area equals length times width. So more commonly, we see that formula, we'll put that down here, as A equals length times width. I did write my L for length in cursive, and that's just so it doesn't look like a 1. So A equals LW. Sometimes you will see this written as A equals BH, or base times height.